Hey folks, Rob Potter here from thepromiserevealed.net. Once again, remember the new website name. Today we have a very special guest. I'll be bringing him on in a few minutes. But as always, I want to share a few things that are going on my website. And again, my wonderful summer conference, the 9th annual one in Mount Shasta. And here we go with the website. And it's this summer conference right here. If you click on this little purchase tickets right here, we have Raymond Kella, Alex Collier, Vivian Chavez, Suzanne Ross, Frank Chili, many wonderful people. And hopefully next year we'll have David Serada be able to come. But there's early bird tickets available now. This is all the information. You know, it is $350 for 4 days. And if you can only make 3 days, we do have 3-day tickets if you want to become a vendor. And folks, if you can't afford to come, you can join my volunteer staff for free. There's lots of things that you can do here. Read all the information. It's an amazing event that we have every year. I have 2 locations, and we have workshops. Some will be on the mountain with different people. We're doing a night watch with some people from Sedona. And so here I want to show you, there's another event I'm going to be doing here. I'm going to show it to you real quick here. Right here in Sedona, I'm doing the Ascension Retreat, the Equinox Portal Immersion. If you enter the word Rob10, you get a 10% discount. Sasha Stone, a lot of myself, Michael Jacob, William Henry, Laura Eisenhower, lots of great people. My friend Frank Chili will be there. So I wanted to share that with you. And I'm going to stop sharing while I bring in my wonderful guest, David Serada. And most of you know me through my interest in pyramids. I worked with Fred Bell from the age of 17. I was good friends with Pat Flanagan. And of course, if you know my website and you look around, I work a lot with pyramids and crystals. This is a Tesla coil with the ion shower. That's an Omnion. And of course, the radiator, larger stuff. So I have a lot of amazing technologies that I have with the pyramids. And David is also an expert in pyramids. He's a very advanced scientist. And I'd like to welcome you to the show, David. Thank you so much for coming on. I know you're quite busy up there in BC, Canada.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. I'm glad to be here. I love Sedona and Shasta. I've always loved those 2 energetic portals, and I've spent a lot of time in both of them.
Wonderful.
And I've climbed up on Shasta and had incredible experiences there, actually.
Yeah, it's very wonderful and beautiful up here. Lots of good things happening. I'd like to share your website with people because I always think it's important that people learn about the guests I'm speaking about. So I have your homepage pulled up here.
Yeah, davidserada.co, like company or.
Yeah, so he has a lot of amazing technologies and information. And I've told people that the founding fathers at that point in time, the Masonic Lodge was a good lodge, and that the people talk about the pentagram of the words on Venus, and actually the Pentagon in the White House sits at the head of the star, and it's laid out, and that's the way that Venus looks during certain transits. So the Masonic Lodge was in touch with beings from other realms, and they were being guided by some Venusians who were actually working in the American and the French Revolution. So the Masonic Lodge is in the upper third of the Masonic Lodge is kind of taken over by some bad guys now. But look at David's stuff here, folks. He's got some amazing products, like body activations. He has his own inner circle member as well, and frequency. And I was the project of the Washington Monument. I found interesting information there. So David's very well connected, and I'm going to share his book right now. This is another thing that's really excited me. My friend Dr. Frank Stranges, who inspired me to have my inner circle, used to go on Victor One every year and meet with Valiant Thor and act as an Earth ambassador in the inner circle. David Serada had a face-to-face meeting with Jesus Christ. And David, I think this is probably some of the most amazing stuff. Dr. Frank actually walked with Christ along the shores as he appeared on the lakes, and talked to him. And I'd like to share your visions and your experiences in this book are fantastic. You were at the lowest point in your life, and you were a tree hugger and a naturalist and an environmentalist. And share a little of your story of how this meeting with Christ kind of catapulted you into even this great metaphysician and scientist.
Well, all of my work and all my calculations of harmonic frequencies are based on my connection to Christ. And my first meeting with him was in the middle of October 1994 during a rainstorm. And my environmental eco venture capital company went bankrupt. I had been planting trees personally for, decades. I mean, I spent 23 years personally planting over 1.5 million trees. And I was so very devoted to my meditation practice, a yoga practice. And when this moment occurred where I was actually freezing to death with hypothermia and sleeping in like this much water, because I was pitched my tent in a gully on my dad's ranch. And, I didn't have any more money. I had no way to keep myself alive. And I just started floating out of my body, and I came to the oak trees, which in Topanga Canyon, California, this is where this was. And it was raining like crazy, and a crucifix, a stone, massive crucifix, probably over 30 feet tall, was hovering there in front of the trees in the out-of-body state. And below it was a baptismal font in the shape of a cross. And the water had this angelic sound, and I put my arms out in spirit, and I fell into the water and was baptized by Christ himself. And then I was taken out of body above the rain clouds, and I could see the sun hadn't yet risen. And I thought, oh my God, you're dead, you died. And all of a sudden, these tiny little glistening gems of light, it's like millions of tiny atoms of light from every holographic direction, above, below, behind, and in front of me, came rushing together and materialized the body of Christ, which was instantly 1,000 times brighter than our earthly sun. But the real brightness is in the spirit, and the spirit is blinding love and ecstasy and peace and power and beauty and wisdom and grace. And I fell upon my face in true humility, unable to stand or look directly upon the face of Christ for more than like little glimpse, like 1 second. Oh my God, he's so powerful. I had no idea that I was going to meet Jesus. And again, I understand that's not his name, because there is actually no J in the Aramaic language. There is no J. There's a Y, but there's no J. It's not sharp like that. But nevertheless, he came up to me, and it's just looking at his feet, just touching his feet is more astounding than any experience in meditation I'd ever had. And I've been meditating every single day since I was like 16 years old. And I'm 60 years old today, but I mean, I've been meditating ever since. I've never stopped meditating. And so Christ started speaking to me in between these intermittent glances upon his most astounding, blinding face. And I'm actually crying my eyes out in the love. I can't describe, like, just rivers of tears in the spirit pouring out of my eyes. And I'm holding his feet, and he starts speaking. And he speaks in the language of the Gnostic Gospels. He's speaking to me so that I would, because I didn't know what the Gnostic Gospels were on this particular date in history, because they were just coming to the scene. This 1994, and they were translated, in the Nag Hammadi Library Project was one of the missing massive iconic projects to translate old scripture that has resurfaced, although there's many more than even just the ones in the Nag Hammadi Library find. So when Jesus, well, the first thing he said to me is, I have appeared to a number of people throughout history, all over the universe, but at different levels of people's spiritual ability. He said, nobody has ever seen me in my entirety. He said, even what you're seeing now, which is way brighter than what the apostles saw in the normal fleshy sense, other than the transfigurations where Christ, transfigured and shone like the sun, this was exceedingly bright what I was seeing. And he's saying, even now, this is not my entirety. So in the Gospel of Philip, it says Jesus, he deluded them all. He appeared to the great as great, the small as small, to men as a man, to an angel as an angel, to a God as a God. But he's deluded. He took them all by stealth, is what it says in Philip. It also says this in the end of the trimorphic protonoia. So Jesus started appearing to me every couple of years in this utterly blinding form. And then the Virgin Mary started appearing to me, and then Mary Magdalene appeared to me. So I went through a whole series of appearances. And then Christ has even, I think the last time I saw him was last May. I think it was May 15th. So the each time he appears, there is a massive message. And the work that I've done in decoding biblical and spiritual frequencies for the benefit of not only healing the body. See, so everybody wants to have their disease healed, but sometimes there's a reason we get a disease, because it's part of our ascension to rise above it, so that it forces us to go higher. Mm-hmm. So if we get too cozy in the physical plane, sometimes something it happens to us that forces us to go higher. And what I give people are frequencies that I've decoded that are, many of them are purely biblical or scriptural based frequencies.
This is wonderful because when you came up, I was watching on the YouTube on your homepage, folks. There's a YouTube about looking for the perfect harmonic scale, and your scale is based on the Fibonacci series, which is a base divided by the height of the Great Pyramid, which progresses to infinity. And that's why the Great Pyramid is on the seal of the United States. The Masons, not in the negative Mason sense, but when it was pure and truly guided by the higher light forces, use that because that's an economic system that progresses to infinity. It's not the central banking system that controlled by dark force, and that's being taken down right now by multiple galactic councils. I wanted to also mention the Venusians say that Christ came from Venus. Originally, he was an ascended master, one of the four Kumaras born 17 million years ago. And for a period of time, he was overshadowed by the theophanic angel, the one like unto God, Archangel Michael. And so the fact that his brightness shines like the sun and even brighter is said by the Venusians here. When I asked them about Christ, because I'm not really a religious person, and I was kind of wondering how the divine could express itself in one form, but the divine expresses itself in all forms. People say to me, where is God? I say, where is God not? He is creation. So
that's clearly established even in the trimorphic protonoia, that God, that there's a luminous seed that was planted in every single human called the epinoia that allowed us to supersede the dominion of the dark rulers, or the dark or lower gods known as the archons. So God is all pervasive. There's different strata, but the divine person is another thing. It's a totally other thing. But Venus, it's amazing that you bring up Venus, because it's in the book of Revelation. Jesus is the bright and morning star, or he was stationed there. But it's also in the book of Isaiah that Satan, or Lucifer, fell from the bright and morning star. And that's because that's where the throne, there's a physical throne of God that was established on Venus. And some people think, oh, well,
no. I want to say, because this is what the Venusians told me. They said that bright morning star was the planet Meldak, and Satan was cast down to there, and he tried to blow up the planet, and then he was cast into the earth. So
right, he fell from the Venus platform to the earth. That's clearly what it says. Now, one thing about Venus, if I calculate its frequency, so I take the speed of light divided by its wavelength, this is going to really blow your audience's mind. I get to a frequency at its base, and when you see the base number, I'm going to apply a musical octave, and you're not going to believe where I end up. You're not going to believe the number that I end up, because I'm going to end up at the love frequency, 528. So if I take the base frequency of Venus, which is 8.2562889, so I've got the long form right in front of me now, and I'm going to apply it times 2, which is the musical octave. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 octaves up, I'm at 528, which is the solfeggio love frequency. So Venus is a musical scale. Don't think of a planet like an Earth frequency. You can go up the scale, and I only go up 7 octaves, just like, 7 octaves, and I'm at 528.40 actually. So that means I'm at the known love frequency. So Venus, it's not that Christ is exclusive to Venus. Christ was stationed there, and there was a throne established there for when Christ is overlooking the solar system and the earth. It's right next to us, and it has that space and the ability to commune with people on earth, literally being right next to us.
Yeah, they actually have many people here, part of what they call the angel force, who have translated from Earth, and native Venusians. They have usually 5,000 to 6,000 people at any moment living and walking amongst us. So a long time ago, the people of Venus went through a similar situation of a transhumanist agenda, and they managed to get a fifth columnist who was going against us. He was the president kind of the planet, and he announced something. They called it the beginning, and they all walked away from the cities and left the corporations. And then that may have been when Lucifer went from that planet to the planet called Maldek, and he became tried to do the same thing there. That planet was destroyed, completely blew up, because it was doing what we've been trying to do, open up a portal to the demon holes. And so that was the morning star. And when the recalibration of the galaxy, Venus, so Satan or Lucifer is actually two different beings, but Lucifer came from Maldek and then was cast down. I wanted to talk about the frequencies because I've noticed, I looked on the video and all I get is 5.15. What are the other frequencies? Can't we share those with the world? Is there
I have so many different frequencies. I mean,
you talked about the 10 scale. What are those frequencies? I can tune my synthesizer to that, right?
Right. Well, again, there is I mean, there's so much I could tell you that's really quite revolutionary, but this is quite mind-blowing. I mean, the painting, the Salvator Mundi, and this number I'm about to share with you it actually came in on my radios recently as an actual frequency, which I recorded with a frequency meter. So this is a physical radio that is tuned to the 144.1 megahertz. And the number that appeared on my meter is so mind-blowing. I'm going to tell you what it is. Just a second. 400 and just a second.
So you received this transmission. They kind of communicated this to you on a frequency, right? This is from external sources.
Yeah, we sent out a transmission from Stonehenge last week, and the transmission, literally, my radio is thousands of miles away. I mean, the woman who did the transmission sent it from the center of Stonehenge on the 4th of February, which would be midnight our time, at the very birth of the 4th of February. And on my radio comes this number, which is 1510.132. So that's just accurate to 3 decimals, but I have more decimals than that.
1510 point what?
1510.132. This physical number showed up on my meter, and I'll show you what that looks like. So I have this. Wait, sorry, I did it wrong. I got to go into my photos to show you what it actually physically looks like when you see this. Okay, this number, this is my frequency meter app. I'm just going to show you what it looks like. So this meter app,
Yeah.
I put in front of my radio, which is a high frequency radio. It's tuned to the frequency of the transmission. And all of a sudden, the frequency of the sound coming in on the radio is this number. So what does this number mean? If I take this number 1510.132 divided by pi, I get the height of the Great Pyramid to perfection, 480.69 feet to perfection. That's Peter Lemizure's final measurement to the apex. And that's that resolves perfectly to 280 cubits using the 20.601 inches per royal cubit. Now, why is this so important? Is because they're showing us something mind-blowing in the Salvator Mundi, because guess what year the Salvator Mundi is dated? 1510.
Wow. So
the same number. So if I take the Salvator Mundi, remember Christ said in the Gospels, I am the chief stone, the cornerstone that the builders, he is the reincarnation of the capstone of the pyramid. And in fact, if I take the height of the pyramid, now I'm going to divide it by pi. And guess what I get? 153. The number of fish the disciples caught upon the resurrection of Christ, symbolizing the resurrection frequency, is the 153. So the 153 actually corresponds to the 154, because the 154 in the Gospel of the Egyptians, otherwise known as the Gospel of the Great Invisible Spirit, says to vowel tone as a practice, 7 vowels 22 times equals 154. So the 153 and 154 form a binaural pattern. And once I build in all of my octaves, these are my new resurrection frequencies that people are doing. You can't believe what this experience is like to go on one of my coil bed systems, which I did this morning, and regenerate all of your cells with the resurrection frequencies, again, that correspond to the Salvator Mundi painting, because it's the 1510, which is the circumference. If I take the height of the Great Pyramid of Egypt times pi and get the circumference, it's 1510. And there's a little more numbers in the decimal. And then if I take that number divided by pi, I get the height of the Great Pyramid divided by pi again, I get 153, the resurrection number, which happens to be the number of Mary Magdalene's name. We know the 153 is the numerical gematria value of her name. So when you put these actual frequencies into your body magnetically, which is thousands of times deeper than acoustically, it goes right into your DNA.
well, that's a lot of the work that Dr. Fred Bell was doing with the pyramids. This is actually 144 pyramids in a Fibonacci.
See, and that's the 144 number. And that's the number that my radio was tuned to, the 144.
And the parabolic lens, the curvature is based at 23 megahertz, which is one of the, or 22 point something, one of the primary DNA replication frequencies. If I was to muscle test myself, I would test strong. If I took some airplane glue and breathed at muscle testing, I would go weak. When I'm wearing this, I can take muscle men and do a muscle test, and they'll remain strong while breathing. They'll go weak with the glue, and then I do this, they're strong again. On the back, it's a Casaubon wave trap. So this is a harmonic device given by the Pleiadians, and we have another one called the Andromedan holographic projector. I'm going to share with you some information. The National Health Federation was founded and based on the work by some guys that were put in jail, like Wilhelm Reich, for healing a lot of people. And what they were given by the Venusians was one of these devices, and it was basically a single cathode ray tube filled with specific noble gases that had like a violet flame in it, and there was a sound frequency that emitted. And according to Dr. Bell, and he was trying to build this at the time the government knocked him off. It was on a disc like this, and there was a tub, which is like the Great Pyramid chamber. They had a tub that was filled with pH water, and they would basically, you put your hand on the aura plate, it would read your frequency, and then this device would come over, and it had 7 different cathode ray tubes with different noble gases. He never revealed them, but Thomas Colt and Thomas Hart and Fred Hart and Thomas Colson had developed this one, and they were healing cancer. And the government confiscated it, put them in jail, and the people were so upset because people being cured of a lot of things with this with just one tube. And so that started the National Health Federation, which has been fighting for our right to even have vitamins. They're trying to take away and decimate everything, and they're seeing unwound now due to the, I would say, natural frequencies of the universe, and through Christ's redemption. When Satan offered him the world, he said, no, that was the beginning of the unwinding of the Draco reptilian, or the fall of the certain.
See, the purpose to get the frequencies in your body isn't just to cure the disease, it's to get a DNA upgrade, because DNA responds to frequencies. It was proven by Luc Montagnier.
That's exactly what it was. And I wanted to share with you the final thing of this. So it would read your frequencies, and it would go over the body while you're in a pH balance. And it would actually, he said, it would look back to the perfect state of your DNA. And then it would provide a sound, light, unique sound, light, and color show. He said it would start at red and it would go in a very kind of deep holographic sound. It would go, and it would go faster and faster. And through this, allegedly, you could rejuvenate yourself. And this is very possibly part of this 18-year-old Vril technology, which has been used in the past for some negative things, gene altering, transhumanism, but the Venusian use it for a very positive aspect. So what I was hoping was, do you have, and I would like to get you as a scientist, there's another guy who's working with some advanced genetics scientists who work on DNA, with how sound frequencies affect the body. And so using the sound frequency, I use crystal colors with lasers. So the laser excites a crystal and transmits. The Pleiadians said the quartz crystal is the perfect synthesis of spirit and matter in 0 time. So there's a woman who also has, the rife is based on frequency, but I was thinking if we could read people's auras and give them a sound bath specifically attuned to them to reconnect to their divine overself and bridge this gap of the human element to the divine. Do you have any type of
I have lots of those kind of frequencies, because they're specified very clearly. See, you brought up an important point about the Mason. See, God is a master builder. He tells the prophets to build for example, the original Holy of Holies at the time of Moses was a 10 by 10 by 10 cubit tent where the Ark of the Covenant was. And inside of the Ark of the Covenant were also the 12 staffs for the 12 tribes getting charged in there. And we make the most beautiful staffs in the world that are calibrated to the measurement of the Ark of the Covenant. And then you have what's called the holy place, which is 10 by 20 cubits. What's amazing about the pyramid is the Queen's chamber is the same measurement. It's 10 by 10 by 10 royal cubits. And the King's chamber is 10 by 20. Those are the measurements of the holy place and the Holy of Holies at the time of Moses. And at the time of Solomon, it doubles. And when you see a doubling, because these are God's instructions, that's a musical octave, which is times 2. Because then in Solomon's temple, the holy place is 20 by 40, and the Holy of Holies is 20 by 20 by 20 royal cubits. And we know the royal cubits because in the book of Ezekiel, God says in 5 places through the angel that a cubit of God is a cubit plus a hand. So the symbol of the elbow to the fingertip plus a hand is a royal cubit, even though biblically we don't see actual royal cubits. Like, those are, we have so many staffs now. So that's the head on the different staffs. You have to see, look at the pyramid staffs. Keep going on your staffs. And you'll have to, hang on a second. I'll get my scepter here and I'll show it to you. Hang on.
Yeah, so what we see here, folks, is he's got some stuff. And the Venusians, I talked to David a little before the show. The Venusians have suggested that the quartz crystal be placed in a vacuum chamber with neutrinos and for activation of healing. And
See this scepter right here. This is the new pyramid. This is a royal cubit. And you know what's amazing about the Hebrew, there's different cubits, but this particular cubit is tuned to 144 megahertz. Because as a monopole, the height of an antenna, even as a bioantenna, remember, God told Moses to put a fiery brass serpent. A serpent is just the symbolic language of a coil on a pole, right? But it had to be a certain height. And we know the height is 2.5 cubits because in the Bible, the staff of Aaron lay in the Ark of the Covenant, which is 2.5 cubits, which is telling us how long it is. But this is a scepter, and this scepter is a perfect Hebrew cubit, which is tuned to, it actually mathematically comes to 144 megahertz. Now, the resurrection frequencies, again, when we look at resurrection frequencies and we consider our musical octave, I can go past the audible range and I can go all the way to megahertz. So 20 megahertz, it's just a tad over 20 megahertz, is a high octave of the 153 tone, which is the resurrection number, right? When people work with these, when I meditate with this, holding it in my left hand, even when these actually connect, there's a little node right here that connects to an alligator clip that connects to my frequency generator. So, and then I punch in my magic frequency numbers into this. The second I hold this, using a meter, I can measure the frequencies coming off my skeleton on my other hand way over here. That's because the second you're holding this, your whole nervous system is now going to vibrate at the design specified frequencies. And so is the whole house, by the way.
Yeah,
so
I
that's
saw
what
that
I mean.
on the video that you did. I want to say a couple of things here, folks. So he's talking a lot of numbers in the kind of scientific terms, but the Jesus Christ was the living word of God. In the beginning was the word. So the universe, the physical manifestation, starts from sound. The Pleiadians told Fred in his development of the interstellar time conversion process of a spaceship that the central pole must be counterwound like a caduceus staff with alternating with the electricity. That would create a 0-point frequency of energy that would encapsulate the spaceship, so that when the mass of the ship was accelerated to the astral plane where the speed of light travel can take place, that the human body would not, like the Philadelphia experiment, go into the ship. You would maintain your corporeality. So time travel, a function of the fourth dimension, is actually, which the Earth is moving into now through the science of time travel, which the government's been experimenting for maleficent purposes, is being orchestrated now by Venusians working with select scientists in secret bases under Earth, so that as we move into this fourth dimension technology, we can safely use it. So what David's revealing here through these technologies is how your frequency and uplifting your consciousness is the most important. And realize that our world today, with all the toxins, the chemtrails, the genetically altered foods, vaccines, all these negative things that are being put against you are designed by a dark force to keep you in ignorance and keep your frequency from
Keep your frequency down. Yeah.
keeping the frequency down. It's jamming your mighty I am presence.
So
Another
if you read Mark 6:1-8, now that's coded. That's the golden ratio, right? 6:1-8, golden ratio. Jesus first establishes the connection to his family, his brothers, and it looks like he has 3 sisters. If you read Mark 6:1-8, this is your canonized Bible, but then he tells them the secret to how he does the healings and the anointings. He tells the apostles, you must have your staff with you. And the staff is legendary. It goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden in the Lost Books of Eden. Every prophet had their staff. So why is it that people think when Jesus he's telling the apostles, no money in your purse, no bread, just sod and sandals in your sandals, have your staff with you. And that's not a piece of wood, because we know from the books of Moses that God said to put a copper coil on a pole. Well, that's what Tesla did when he created radio. But now I have a frequency device that is like a mini Holy of Holies temple, which is a double 14-pointed 14-layered star coil that spins counterclockwise into the center of the axis. It's about this big. And this thing will change the frequency of an entire square, entire small community, actually. It creates a double vortex. So I produce the speed of light cubed, which is times itself, spinning 2 sacred frequencies against each other that are slightly in what you call a differential arrangement. And you can now counteract all the negative impact of the 5G and what's eventually going to be 6G. See, that's another way they're keeping us down, is the frequencies they're putting out of the microwave towers.
Yeah, that's coming down now. I have a little tri-field meter.
Yeah.
And I put this against it. There's 0 next to it out here. It blocks that frequency. If you take a regular pyramid, my pyramids are orgone plated with nickel and gold. And they also, I can have a red 291. And then I put it over here, it goes down into the green level of 71. So the Pleiades.
But you're not measuring with the tri-field there. You've got to be in RF mode, radio frequency mode, to measure your.
I have all 3.
You have all 3. So yeah. So because you can, when you're measuring in milligauss, you're measuring low frequencies. But to measure the microwave towers, you have to be in RF or radio frequency mode.
Yeah,
right,
it has that too. So they send frequencies, carrier waves along our electrical lines.
So we just have to recalibrate our spaces, our living spaces, our workspaces, and our communities, because the frequencies coming out of the microwave towers are dark energy.
Those are going to be brought down with the global restoration plan that's enacted now by. It's going to be enacted by we the people. The galactics have given certain information. I want to talk about the mantrams and the sound frequency of the voice, because I was reading this stuff and I wanted to see what if I ohmed into I had a 55-gallon drum and I stretched it with rubber and I put sand on it. And folks, when you reach a harmonic, the sand will go into a specific dance on the rubber and create a frequency. They do this with plates and you can see it, and they go into organized patterns. And in between the shifts, there's always chaos. The sand is moving. And that's what the planet is going into now, kind of an orchestrated shift of changing of ley lines and everything. But what I noticed, Dave, when I did you get the heart chakra of the Indians, the red one. It starts out with an outer ring, and then it would create fleur-de-lis, another ring, and then in the middle was intersecting triangles that actually were broken down into, I think it was 12 or some number of pyramids, but they were pointing straight up. So it wasn't like they were two-dimensional. The sand was moving upward. And what I noticed in that, when I said the Om, not every part of the shape was perfect. And I don't know if it was due to the microphone or how big the sand or the plate was, but I kind of got this feeling that we could actually diagnose people's imbalances through taking their voice and reading these sound frequencies, and maybe even training the voice with these certain mantras to develop out a more perfect use of the voice and the word to create health in the body. I think that's what mantras and some of these things are about. And for the archons, I think, I don't think all archons are negative. I think archon means manipulator of matter, but mostly on our world, that is used in a negative sense. We have the divine architect, God, and he's not negative. He's the positive aspect of infinite creative ability. So what do you think about the voice mantras and combining just this? We have right now, you're doing a frequency that's doing the body. How about, is there some way we can combine? I mean, maybe some of my systems. What I was actually thinking when I invited you here was to bring your stuff. And I have this large pyramid chamber that I create with crystals and lasers that have different colors. And it's kind of like your wands. You don't have to think about it. You don't really have to program it. It's putting out such a naturally positive field that everyone's positively affected. You know, with the lasers, you can increase white blood cell count. Dr. Bell gave the Pleiadian and said, make some lasers. And he had me go into a shop, and it wasn't solid state. I was just transistors and resistors and whatever I was doing. And I created 10 laser machines with a red laser, and the frequencies were alpha, beta, and theta. And with those frequencies alone, we launched all the cold laser therapy that you're seeing now. We sent it to Japan, to China, to MIT, to Stanford, and to UC Irvine, and to Germany, a couple universities. These 10 went out around the world. And we were coming back with reports from Japan and Germany that white blood cell count was increasing, and they were working on the body's electromagnetic aura. And the Venusians told me specifically about frequencies that we should be studying sound, light, and color in combination, and attention should be paid to the aura for the efficacy of these technologies. If you could,
well, one thing
yeah,
about the color. So first, the word in the Bible, John 1, in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word is God, is actually the word logos in the Greek, because Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are Greek manuscripts. And logos means perfect harmonic vibration set up by a perfect harmonic ratio. So word doesn't mean like humans just talking a bunch of words. It's actually a perfect science. And one thing I've done recently, this is in the Gospel of Philip, where Jesus says to throw 72 colors into a vat and they all come out white. Well, there are 9 primary colors, and if you start at the peak absorption line frequency, which is in the trillions of hertz bands on each of your 9 primary colors, and you come down your musical octaves, which is dividing by 2, I did this, and you end up coming up with 8 octaves of 9 colors is 72 colors, which is exactly what the Gospel of Philip says for the activation of the people. So the question is, when you're using your voice, you can listen with headphones to these tracks that I've created, and you can train your voice to all of the octaves of the color that you're missing in your aura, right? Because you don't want to have an all blue or a purple aura, because that means you're becoming disembodied, actually, because you want to have all the colors in your aura to have a comprehensive aura, so that you comprise white light, so you don't want to have too much of one color and be imbalanced. So with those frequencies, again, how you use your voice correctly, you don't just sing or tone at any pitch. You listen to the correct pitch in your ears, and then you match it with your voice. And that's how your voice becomes perfectly tuned to the frequencies.
This sounds like something very positive. I'm really happy to hear that. the you're mentioning what are the 9 colors?
So you have red, orange, yellow, lemon, green, blue, turquoise, indigo, and violet. So those are the actual. Now, some of your other colors, like purple, is a composite, right?
Yeah.
Scarlet is a composite. They're composite colors, meaning they have 2 colors to create them. But those are your primary colors. Now, when I went from the top, because they're all of our colors are somewhere in, I have the exact numbers, but they're all in the trillion hertz bands. Now, if I divide all my colors all the way down to the beginning of the human consciousness brainwave frequency, there are 432 colors in total.
Wow.
Isn't that incredible? 432. So that you're 430, that's how many colors there are that fit in the square of the 9 colors divided by a musical octave all the way down to the beginning of human brainwave activity. There are 432 colors that fit there. There are 72 colors in the audible range. So there's 8 octaves times 9 colors is 72, and that's in the Gospel of Philip. So what Jesus is saying is, to activate your rainbow body, you need to do the musical tones of the 9 octaves of color, 8 octaves times the 9 colors. So you work with those tones. And I have those exact. Those are all on my website for people to participate with. And people can either do them audibly, you can even use them to activate the pyramids that you already have, actually, because they will respond to them. Because you know what was really amazing? When I had this chart of 432 numbers of all the colors, I wanted to know, what is the color of the Earth frequency, the 7.83 fundamental Earth frequency, the Tesla Schumann resonance? It's green. It's a green octave, which explains why all the planets on Earth are green, right? And they're not blue. So our Earth is a green octave planet. Now, Venus, I'd have to put Venus in my chart and see what color Venus's octave is.
In the grand man of the heavens, when we look at the logos, or as above, so below, we have 7 sacred planets representing the different chakras. And in each solar system, so the Earth actually occupies the heart center, which is the middle.
Which is green, right? Which is green.
That's right. So
isn't that incredible?
Yeah. So all of this is the beautiful aspect of the divine mind of creation. People think, oh, it's just a haphazard. Of course not. It's not. I'm looking in here for frequency. Where is those sounds located?
So put my website up again, and I'll show you.
I have it. I'm here on. Is it under frequency?
If I go to davidserada.co.
Yeah. I see the God Project, the Right Project.
So I go to frequency,
yeah,
and scroll down to the
logos.
I'm trying to see where my rainbow body, the rainbow body.
Rainbow body. Okay. All right.
That's near the top.
Yeah. Okay.
You click on rainbow body, and those are your color frequencies.
Okay. So I'm going to share that with you folks here, because I think this is something practical that people can do for themselves, actually, is share. Here we go. There we go. So we have the rainbow body, the frequencies. So
yeah, and there's a video there. There's the Gospel of Philip. Watch the rainbow body activation frequency video. Again, people who don't have money to get the coil systems can start with headphones. Although when you use coils, like my coil bed systems, I had this actual experience. It really blew my mind.
This is it here. What's the difference between these?
Between what?
The rainbow frequency on the share, 212, 111.
Okay, there's the rainbow frequencies and the color frequencies. So the color frequencies, you're doing one color at a time, and I take you through the whole rainbow. But the rainbow frequencies, you're doing all 9 levels of a certain octave of the colors all at once. So you're doing the whole rainbow, and you're going from the bottom of the rainbow to the next octave of the rainbow to the next octave of the rainbow until you go up 8 octaves. But when you're doing the colors, you're doing one color at a time. So they're very comprehensive. If you do both, this actually
So
happened to
you're
me.
doing them separately. So I would play the
Yeah,
rainbow frequencies. I'd go through the, how many are there?
there's
9.
9
And
primary
then I go through
colors.
the color frequencies. I'd have
Yeah,
to
then when you
literally,
do the color frequencies, you're going to do all the red frequencies first, then you're going to do all the orange frequencies
does
next.
it have the sound or just the color?
No, it has the sound. Those are the perfect mathematical calculations.
So the rainbow frequency is just the sound.
They're all, but again, they're just a sound. But when you run them through one of my coil beds,
I
they
see.
go into your chakras magnetically, which is 1,000 times deeper than sound. But it's not that they don't go into you with sound, it's just slower. Like we did this study in Sedona years ago. We got 7 women on the GDV Aura cameras, and we compared them to doing a sound healing session the next day. So you do a sound healing session and you'd see the aura improve, but within hours that improvement would already go away. But when you do frequencies magnetically, 3 days later it was still holding in the subject's aura testing, because it penetrates into the bone marrow. So the crystals in your calcium crystals and your sodium crystals in your body are still vibrating from one session 3 days later. So it's in the order of 1,000 times more deeper to use one of the bed systems to get the frequencies in your body. And I have so many frequency programs that come with my devices. I mean, it's going to take you years to get through them all. But once your DNA gets them, you're getting an upgrade. This is what I mean. So that when you go to your meditation practice, you're going to go into the high frequency state in meditation so much faster than you would if you were meditating for hours and hours and hours. Now, that's why Jesus said in Mark 6:1-8, you have to have your staff with you. This is a scepter. The staff is longer. The staff is measured perfectly to 2.5 perfect royal cubits. So the idea in working with frequencies that are precise, like I can take anybody's pyramid. So you have a pyramid made of copper or whatever it's made out of. I can put that pyramid put one of my coils in the middle of that pyramid, and that pyramid is going to amplify my coil thousands of times, because the coil frequencies are going to activate inside of the matrix of the pyramid, and they're going to go into a higher order as they go up into shorter and shorter vortex wavelengths going up in the pyramid. So some people use my systems with their pyramids, and they put them in the bottom of the pyramid. I mean, I had one guy get 6 of my coils and put them in, on the top of the pyramid, the bottom, middle, and the 4 points on the corners to have this super powered, pyramid. And again, you connect all your frequencies, go into a phone or an iPad in iTunes, and you connect your phone or your iPad to a little stereo amplifier, and from there 2 speaker wires go to the coil or the bed system. And then as soon as you hit play, you can see it on your tri-field meter. The whole room lights up with those frequencies. See, it's not EMF that's bad. Venus has an EMF frequency, Earth has an EMF frequency, the sun is EMF. It's whether you're in a harmony or a disharmony that determines in fact, we wouldn't be alive without EMF. Plants are photosynthetic, our cells are photosynthetic. So we're living on electromagnetic frequencies that are natural, so nature has these very tuned places or harmonies, just like the planets are specific harmonies. And Venus happens to be a 528 love frequency octave, right? So
Yeah, they call it the planet of love and all that. So I was going to share with you. I wrote this article pretty quickly because I've lived it with Dr. Fred Bell here for years, and
yeah, I knew Fred, and we were talking just before he died. He reached out to me and he wanted to collaborate.
I know that's
And
exactly what, when looking at your stuff, I definitely think we should do that. We're working with a guy named David Adair. He created a fusion engine that was privately behind the scenes too. Now, I wanted to share with you, um, just sharing a little about pyramids and spirals and negative ions here, but I have an image of a pyramid uh, that we just connected a Tesla coil to. That's a simple Tesla coil, folks, on a pyramid. You see the dual magnetic frequencies. If you take I have what's called a power supply, and I'll show that real quick here. So you take this power supply that goes up and you connect it, and this whole thing becomes electrical right here. If I touch that, it creates a violet flame arc. So all of the pyramids are creating these vortexes. So what we're seeing here, folks, is the real science of frequency adjustment, not through the pharmaceuticals. So a lot of these things are to come forward. I do think that we're going to create some great things, David. That when some finances come in, the Global Restoration Project can be funded. And I think we're going to get a lot of experts like you and some other people involved in sound and light and color. And I think we're going to be able to reproduce some of these more advanced technologies. I think at a certain point when we can prove ourselves that we don't need wars, we have a representative government, that we can actually openly communicate with our Venusians and many other positive races to restore and replenish the planet instead of creating wars. So I think we have a bright, bright future. I wanted to share with you, ask one more question that I had earlier. You mentioned about your last communication with Christ. What was the big message that came through that, if you can share that with us last May, because that's kind of a more up-to-date message. And folks, if you have a chance to get that book on his website, he's talking a lot about interdimensionality and the various heavens and
Yeah, that book was stolen by Blue Dolphin Press and it's no longer in print. People sell it on Amazon for as much as $900. So what I'm doing now to give people the messages.
How could they steal? I mean, I guess you just didn't want to go through the legal process of it's written by you.
Yeah, Amazon wouldn't even give it back to me. So I gave Paul Clemens, the publisher, $25,000 in 1999, which he asked for. Not only did he steal the money, he stole the book because it sold with 5-star reviews on Amazon for decades. And he never paid the money back or a single royalty for the book. And then Amazon doesn't, they sell, like I can go right now. It's really sad what happened. Like, how could you steal a book like that?
I know the karma's got to be heavy anyway, but
yeah,
I think I got it for 12. I found it somewhere. Maybe it was eBay or something. I don't know, but Dr. Omnick's book is not available and there's some prices there. So it's just a dirty politics going on there. So could you share what the message was in May?
Well, when I saw him in May, I mean, you have to understand when Christ appeared, it's so bright, and it's not just this light. I'm crying my eyes out the whole time like a baby. Like he's just ripping my heart open and purifying my heart and raising the frequency of my heart. And he's confirming, the message is confirming my new work with the frequencies that I'm offering the world now. So now, from when the book came out in the year 2000, it marked the beginning of me communicating the message that's in the book, which is that we don't just because we believe in Christ or get baptized, we don't just go into heaven, because to go into heaven, we have to be able to live inside of that love vibration all day long. And the love itself is bliss. Love and bliss, which is supreme ecstasy, it's necessary for a person to become accustomed to being in that state, to be in heaven. Christ actually took me through 7 levels of heaven. In each heaven, the love and the bliss multiplies another 1,000,000 times. But the love and the bliss are one, and the peace and the love and the bliss are one, and the wisdom and When you get into the higher heavens, you start to see the creation. You start to see the sacred geometries and architectures are living, they're alive, they have presence. So a geometry is not just a visual presentation, it's actually alive. And the entire universe is being maintained by voices which are the word transmitting, the angels are transmitting the words of God, which are logos, vibrations that are maintaining the creation. So when we come into from a human state of unawakened misery, basically suffering, we have to get used to living in this love state. So Christ's message in May of last year, which was the 15th of May, was that people really need to understand this, that they're not going to be able to go from an unawakened state of suffering and go all the way to bliss in one giant leap. They need to get their frequency raised so that they're able to feel and partake of and share into this love vibration. So that it's a misnomer to, is what he's saying, is and this is confirmed in the Gospel of Philip, that you're not saved by the baptism alone. You have to attain the chrisms, and the chrisms are the anointing of the light body, which is when your light body gets switched on, you start to feel this incredible bliss consciousness, which is the love consciousness. And that love consciousness has octaves, which is what another heaven is, a higher leap into a higher heaven is your whole being goes up another octave.
That's what I learned from Fred Bell. I think that's a wonderful thing. I'm going to read a message because, I'm not religious, and I was asking them, and I kind of came to these realizations, and the Queen of Venus said, Rob, you're learning line upon line, precept upon precept to kind of wrap my judgment, limited dualistic thinking. And I've experienced a lot of bliss in the higher heavens when the Pleiadians were literally taking me out of the body on a regular basis and showing me a lot of things. I've had physical encounters with the Pleiadians and Venusians throughout my life. And so when I asked some questions, I said, isn't it better instead of to talk about Jesus? Everyone wants to focus on the personality, but this is what the Venetians said to me. This is Alon of Abahar, planet of the bees in Venusian language. Security chief for the angel force in the Eastern North American sector, speaking to you from one of our safe houses. Thank you for your patience in awaiting our answers to your various questions. I will now answer on behalf of the hierarchy of light for the benefit of those at the attendance, the Mount Shasta Summer Conference. This was last year. Our sincerest greetings to all you in attendance at the Mount Shasta Conference. Members of the angel force are among you, both visible and imperceptible to your physical senses. Dr. Frankie Strange was correct in worshiping Jesus as so far as Jesus Christ is a physical manifestation of the eternal God, who is spirit and must be worshiped and honored in spirit and truth. Insofar as Jesus is the first and primal aspect of this eternal God, it is right and proper that he should be worshiped, for those who have seen Jesus have seen and experienced the true living God. As the firstborn in the material creation and the fullness of time, no one is like unto God, coming closest to his glory but Jesus Christ, who has been known by many names through many numerous incarnations on your planet. Jesus is best worshipped and honored through an acquisition of the knowledge he came to earth to impart to us by applying it in our everyday lives. The seeker can discover the identities of Jesus in these prior incarnations through a study of history and the great teachers, who were their brave reformers. What themes did their messages have in common? This survey should be done with great care and attention to detail. The King James Version of the Bible contains the following Gospel of John, chapter verse 1-5. In the beginning was the Word, the Word's God, the name of the beginning was God. So a lot of the things we talk about are similar. And folks, so I never try to shove Jesus down your throat. It's so much negativity has been done by the dogma, the rituals of the church. And as David has mentioned from his own personal experience of meeting Christ, is one of love and continual connection to all of the universe. So I think we'll end this interview on the theme of love and Jesus Christ, and not that you get caught up in a personality cult, but to recognize the spirit of truth and to be kind to one another. Let's go over his basic tenets that he taught us. One, we're all children of a living, loving God. And as such, we're brothers and sisters. We can disagree, but we're not to violate the oaths of the 7 deadly sins. We're to treat each other and guard each other as a pupil of our own eye. And we are our brother's keeper in a certain sense. And we're to do unto others as we would have done unto us. So if we keep those precepts, this world's going to be a simple and much better place. So let's stop listening to the negative programming, the negative forces by the invaders or the interlopers, as the Venusian calls them. Their covenant of control on the earth is over now, and mankind is free and has a new covenant with God. So let's focus on the positivity and utilizing the various wonderful technologies. I know some of my technologies are a little pricey. David's are pricey as well, but depending on your financial orientation, a lot of these things are going to be very good. I'm hoping one day we can open up a center, David, where we can combine these technologies and people come in and can enjoy them, and many other technologies of advanced healing utilizing sound, light, color, DNA, and many of the other aura enhancing technologies that exist to bring about true healing in the world. So David, thank you so much for coming on the Victory of Light radio show or podcast or whatever I should call it these days, and sharing your wonderful knowledge. It's been a great honor to have you on here today. And I'd like to chat with you after the meeting here. Thank you, David.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's been great having you. Okay.